Welcome to Vision in Action Live. We have a presentation on your first fulfillment plan and a discussion with Barbara Wainwright, certified professional coach, speaker, author, trainer, and the CEO of Wainwright Global Institute of Professional Coaching. Welcome to Vision in Action Live, Ms. Wainwright. I'm Jim Boswell. I'm your host and the author of Lifelong Fulfillment, Take Charge of Your Life. Today's presentation is on your first fulfillment plan. This is especially appropriate to high school seniors, juniors and seniors in college, and anyone starting their first fulfillment plan. It also is helpful to parents, advisors, mentors, and coaches. So let's talk about your situation and what it takes to get you started on your personal development. So at the level of high school, you already have information and you have the best from coaching, schools, and institutions that you've gone to. And you've also encountered political, religious, civic, and institutional indoctrination along the way. So anything in these particular areas are resources, but only those that are factual. For the purposes of moving forward, you have to kind of discard any preconceived notions you have as you take personality profiles and develop fulfillment plans. You may have a little money saved up at this point in life. You might have your eye on a college degree or some employment alternative in mind, and some idea of what you might like to do. You may have some work experience, but most importantly, you're going to have a lot of questions about everything. This is a growth period, and you're starting out on your life with certain basic needs. So from a Maslow's hierarchy of needs perspective, you're right at the bottom of the pyramid, where everything is focused on your search for security, food, a place to live, and the money necessary to make it all work. It'd be nice to have a little fun thrown in too, along with everything else. So this is your Pareto focus for the present. And fulfillment as we know it, or actually achieving full-blown happiness as a mature adult, will come at a later time. But it's a good idea to get started now. So unbeknownst to your counselors and so forth, your plans moving forward can't simply hinge on your IQ, your grades, your education, and training. One is you need to integrate what you do know now with what you don't know now, but which you can learn. You don't know what you don't know at this point. And this is where the Johari window comes into play to help you optimize your knowledge base based on things that might remain hidden if you don't focus on them. You're going to take some psychological profiles, and this will help you understand your inclinations, what your gut tells you about what you like and don't like, and give them some priority and some validity in your experience. You're going to learn whatever your tolerance risk is. You may have none, you may be very risk averse, or you may be willing to take great risks in your life. And one of the things you're going to be looking at is deciding what level of lifestyle goal you want to achieve, whether you simply want to be happy, or if you want to extend that into being fulfilled, or if you want to move beyond fulfillment to wisdom. So let's take a look at how that starts. So your first plan, you're going to just start doing certain things to get started. And this is a couple of exercises to do before you start your first plan. So what you do is you start reading and augmenting your critical thinking skills. This is around things like income, expenses, economics, business principles, mathematics, useful thumb rules, psychology, etc. And rather than ask you to invent those, if you go to the website of lifelongfulfillment.com, there's a bibliography there that has starting points in books and podcasts in every discipline of importance. The next thing you would want to do is experiment a little bit. You want to read, review, and engage some new information. And the way to do this is to set yourself a small trial problem or proposition. And once you do that, you do some research on the alternatives that may appeal to you. And as a result, you're going to practice some of your factual decision making and develop some preliminary conclusions. During this process, it's going to force you to say, well, what and who can I trust? And what's a reliable resource? And what is biased? And oh, by the way, is it valid for my priority goals as opposed to generic goals or someone else's goals? And you have the opportunity here to share some findings with your friends, family, teachers, and experts, and ask those authorities what their views are. And there's LLF preposition worksheets to document your process, which you'll want to hang on to because there will be a reference for the next cycle of developing your personal fulfillment plan. So now you might want to try another trial problem just for the exercise. Let's move on to doing your first plan. So the lifelong fulfillment process is made up in the following steps. First, what we're going to do is help you believe in your innate identity, and this comes from the psychological assessments. We're going to help you inventory your positives, your wants, what makes you happy, what fulfills you, and what your goals might be in terms of things, people, processes, activities, and so forth. And we're also going to inventory your negatives because we don't want to waste a lot of time on negatives, things that we don't like, things that make us sad or anxious or unhappy, or things that suck us dry. We simply want to avoid these things. And so we need to know that. We need to actually have it written down so we don't trip over these by accident. We need to understand the environment in which we live, work, and prosper. We're going to teach you some stuff about the US economy, economics, and so forth. We're going to identify or help you identify your personal resources and your personal constraints and a plan to change those. We're going to also help you decide your priority lifestyle goal, which is the happiness, fulfillment, and or wisdom. And we'll develop and live a lifetime plan with purpose, one that's responsive to change, growth, and constraints. And these steps is how you deliver a lifelong fulfillment process. And recognizing that this is iterative, you will do this multiple times as you go through different phases of your life. You know, every decade, when people die, when you get married, when you move, when events generate a change in your thinking. So let's move on. Now, your first plan in action is, so you say, if I'm going to do a lifelong fulfillment plan, now we're going to start a rough one from start to finish, all of the steps we mentioned before. In the particular case of this particular first plan, you don't have to think about what you're going to be doing in retirement. You don't really have to think about what you're going to be doing in your 50s. So your time scope is something on the order of 5 years minimum, maybe as much as 20 years. Okay, that gets you into your 40s or so. So don't try and plan for everything at this point. Focus on the near term. A couple of weeks after you've completed this initial development, which is the psychological assessment, the risk assessment, settings and brainstorming some initial goals, then you ask yourself if all of that seems right. Well, if you've done it right and it feels good and it makes sense, well, then go ahead and start working the plan. And the details of the plan, we don't have time enough to go through those here. They're on the website, lifelongfulfillment.com, and in the book, Lifelong Fulfillment, Take Charge of Your Life. If it doesn't fit, you can rework the part of the process to reach a better conclusion. But let some time go by before you decide it doesn't work. Now you work the process. This means you're going to get some experience with project workflow, with your personal inclinations, your priority goals, your action plans for objectives versus constraints and resources, and your personal development in action. So that's the substance, start to finish. And in concluding this, at the very least, when you're a junior or senior in college, it's time to really initialize and or rework your first plan. If and when you marry, you go to graduate school, you move, you take a career position, there's a death in the family, whatever. These are all what are called strategic inflection points, and you shouldn't be afraid to redo your plan. Or if it just doesn't feel right, that's also reason enough to turn around and redo your plan. So what you do is you start your work with lifelong fulfillment, take charge of your life. That's the book. Most of the book is also represented on the website, lifelongfulfillment.com. And most of that is all free to you. So you can get started with those tool sets. And now's the time in our program when we entertain perspectives of point solution subject matter experts and people that are leading self-directed lives. Today's discussion is on coaching the personal coaches. This should be very interesting. Join me in welcoming Barbara Wainwright, certified professional coach, international speaker, author, and trainer, and the CEO of Wainwright Global Institute of Professional Coaching. Ms. Wainwright, welcome to Vision in Action Live. We're really happy to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Jim. I am delighted to be here, and I hope I get to know you a little better as well. I absolutely love your book. It's fantastic. It's so thorough and very engaging, and I'd highly recommend anybody who's feeling a little bit lost to pick up a copy and read that. It's really good.
Okay. Well, listen, maybe you can flesh out that brief introduction I had where I might have missed something that's important relative to your work, your background, and your expertise, so this audience understands kind of your background.
For sure. So I came from a software development background. I coded in COBOL, which is pretty ancient history these days. But I loved doing it. I loved solving puzzles. That's the way I saw software, as puzzle solving. And it was a great career for me at the time. I was raising my children as a single parent. So it was a great income that I made from doing that. And for quite a while I was working in software, I realized there was something else that I was really called to do. And that ended up being, after lots of exploration, took a lot of classes, went to a lot of seminars, became certified as a spiritual counselor. I just was searching for the right thing. And I stumbled on coaching in 2005, and I was, oh my goodness, I think this is it. And I explored further. I asked for confirmation from my guidance and got yes, this is it. And I jumped in with both feet, and I have never looked back. Since then, I became certified, and then what I looked at was the whole industry of coaching, which it's interesting with ICF being, very well known. If you search about coaching, ICF is going to pop up. And what I discovered with them is they have a very long process for people to be certified. And that to me was like, I don't get it, because coaching is asking questions. So this isn't really that difficult. Why do we have to have such a long, arduous training process? And so I developed a system of coaching coming from that systems design background. I went, hey, we just need a system of coaching. If we know the questions to ask of the clients so that they can come up with their own answers, because that is the basic premise of coaching, is that our clients have all the answers within. If we have the questions to ask that we can get them to go inside and come up with those answers, how hard is it? Do we really need 120 hours of asking questions? So I developed the coaching system. By now, it's been proven to work. My curriculum's been accredited at the university graduate level through Seattle Pacific University and the American Association of Colleges and Businesses. Right. And I've trained over 6,000 coaches now. So it's getting out there and making a difference in the world. And I feel really proud about that. I'm like so pleased to have made such an impact, and know that the coaches are out there also changing lives for the better and doing things. So that's a little bit about me from the business perspective. From the personal side, I do have 4 children, and they're all grown and moved on. So it gives me a lot more free time. And I do have my grandson, who is 4 years old, that I get to spend time with, and I absolutely adore him.
That's great. That's great. Well, from our perspective with lifelong fulfillment, what we try and do is lay a foundation for personal development. And certainly coaching is one of those resources that people will probably look to at some point in their life history, one time or multiple times.
Yes.
So maybe you could tell us, as an educator, what does an educator professional coaches? What does that constitute? And we understand, I think, how you came to the calling, but what are they learning? Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. So I think the most important thing is for a coach to be aware of that they are strictly in the question asking role. They're not telling anybody what to do. So here's one thing that I see out there, Jim, is that a lot of people are calling themselves a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, they're a consultant. And they are advertising themselves as a coach. However, what they're really doing is consulting and providing answers and providing a pathway and a map. Coaching is really about having the client go inside, figure out what their passion is. They have the answers. I mean, we can't possibly know what somebody's passion is unless we ask, so we don't have the answers, they do. And it's our job as a coach to ask those questions, to get them to dig deep inside, find out what it is that they're really, so what is their calling? What is it that they're meant to do? Like your book so eloquently does. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, what is your calling? What is it that you're meant to do? What gifts do you have on board that you're meant to turn around and gift back to the world? What is that? So that's what coaching is. Coaching is about helping the client go inside, find out what their gifts are, what their passion is, and then hold them accountable to moving forward and getting on board with taking that to the next level. Part of the coaching system that I teach, and I believe this is why it's so successful, part of the coaching system is helping the client to reprogram the subconscious mind. As you probably are aware, the subconscious mind is really programmed from the time we're 0 to we're 8. And so between those years, we don't have any control of what gets put in there. If we're blessed, we have parents that encouraged us to motivate, put really positive things in there, but we're human. And so most likely there's some things in there from either peers or teachers or, individuals that maybe weren't so supportive of where we were going when we were 0 to we were 8. So I think it's really important to address the subconscious mind, to reprogram the subconscious mind with positive moving forward statements. And then now we can look at what we want to do. And therefore, with the vision statement that we create as part of the coaching system, we eliminate people's anxiety and stress and self-sabotage. So the reason why most people don't change is because it's super difficult to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, how many people do you know that stay in unhealthy relationships because it's so comfortable, even though it's not comfortable, it's unhealthy, but they stay there anyway because they're in their comfort zone, right? So I think it's super important to reprogram that subconscious mind. So when the client gets ready to go do what it is that they're really called to do, but they can't, or they experience too much stress and anxiety to do it, that they, as a coach, if we first address the subconscious mind and get them to be able to have that breakthrough and then hold them accountable to moving forward, now it's life-changing. And the client can, with the vision statement, they can see themselves being successful in their mind's eye. They can see the reactions that the people are going to get. It's different than, just trying to hold somebody accountable. So what are you going to do different? What are you going to do next? When are you going to get it done by? It's like, yeah, all that's great and important and necessary. But the first thing we have to address is that subconscious mind so that they aren't experiencing stress and self-sabotage when they get ready to go move forward.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's a very important thing for all of us.
It is. And I don't know how many people are aware that, 90% of the day we're operating from our subconscious mind. Well, if our subconscious mind isn't on board with where we want to go and what we want to do, we got a problem that 90% of the day we're off in some other direction rather than where we really want to go and what we really want to see happen in our lives.
Yeah, that's a tough tug of war to win.
Yes, I
Because
agree.
you're on different ends of the rope.
I agree. I agree.
So what kind of people, is there a characteristic of coaches, people that get called to this profession that, gives them strength in this area? And but their driving force?
It's a really great question. So if I wanted to do an overall umbrella, it's people who like to help people. That's the
Okay.
overall umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And those people consist of therapists. I've trained a lot of therapists that I don't know if you're aware, but licensing in therapy is really stringent and you can't practice therapy from one state to another state. So if you have a client and your client moves, you can't
Right.
service them anymore as a therapist, but as a life coach, you can. So I've
Ah,
trained a lot of therapists because, hey, now they can serve anybody anywhere instead of just serving them as a therapist in the state that they're licensed in. So that's big. Then I've also trained a lot of ministers and chaplains, ministers, reverends, pastors. I mean, they have a lot of different names for that.
mhm.
And I've trained a lot of them because they're people who like to help people. I've also trained healers, people that have Reiki certifications, add life coaching, and
Right.
yoga teachers, add life coaching. But they're all people who are in I call a holistic field. They want to make a difference. They want to help people have a better life.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are some of the people that come for the training. And just recently, I've been speaking with people that are interested in helping others with their careers and help them have with their career planning, if you will. So
Right.
it's so diverse. There's over 52 different coaching niches that people are coaching in. So
Right.
it's very diverse. Yeah.
Well, that brings up an interesting point, and that is that uh, coaches in the business arena, the personal business success, tend to be viewed as not applicable to everyone. And I think in some cases we're forgetting that business coaching is about people because business is about people, and the same rules apply to individuals as they do to business. It's just more structured. It's a little bit more time sensitive and results oriented. But I think they forget that.
Yes, and here's the thing: if it's a small business, that's one aspect. If it's a large company, that's a whole nother ball game.
Right.
Because there's people in large companies, there's still people running that company. And so having the leaders having coaching skills is really imperative, in my opinion, for the company to go from good to great. Like that is, I think, what makes a company great is the leaders of that company investing in their employees.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, you really need to have the coaching skills so that you can empower those clients to be the best that they can be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So in this particular field, is there a very impactful thing that you find uh, just really stands out in the profession? Something that you think, if you can't do this, you just can't succeed. That's that important.
well, I believe the vision statement that we do for our clients,
Mhm.
which is it's a statement of what the client has told us that they want to experience. It's written as if it's already occurred. And delivering that vision statement to them, I record it. I put nice soft music behind it, and I encourage them to listen to it every day for 30 days because it's 30 days to get that reprogramming of the subconscious mind, depending on the neuroplasticity in the brain, because some people get it right away, some people don't get it for 30 days. So, 30 days is kind of like a guarantee. But if you get that vision statement to the point where the subconscious mind is creating and thinking and they're moving in that direction all the time rather than just the 5 or 10% of the time when they're consciously thinking, that's the
Sure.
game changer. It's the game changer. It is the huge difference. I think that's why I've been doing this for so long and why I've trained 6,000 people. And I'll tell you, I was working on referrals for the last 12 years. The referrals have sustained me. I believe that's because what I'm teaching is so powerful that people recommend and refer and send people to me because they experience it in class. Part of the class, it's live class, it's no recordings, it's all live. So they get the experience of being a client and what it's like to receive that vision statement. And when they get that, it's a game changer. It's so moving and impactful. Some people don't give themselves permission to do the things that they want to do. And then when they're asked and they finally get coached and here's something interesting, Jim. Okay, so I'm teaching people, they sign up, they come to take the class to learn how to be a certified professional coach.
Right.
When they get interviewed, half the time, when we're asked, what do you really want to do? It's not, oh, I want to build this amazing coaching business. Half the time, right? I mean, you think, but half the time it's no, I want to write a book, or I want to go travel. I want to, start a travel company. I want to start a different. So it's so interesting that I think that most of us that haven't had a coach, that haven't had that opportunity to really take a minute and sit back and think, what difference do I really want to make in the world? What impact do I want to have? If you haven't taken a time out for that, you might sign up for my class, but when you get asked those questions, if it's coming from your heart, maybe it's not building a coaching business. Maybe it's building a travel company. Maybe it's building a career coaching company, or maybe it's writing a book, or maybe it's being an artist and having an art show. There's so many different things that people come up with in the class when they're asked, what do they really want to do?
Yeah. Well, self-coaching, that makes a lot of sense to me. Go to the source.
Yes, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's good to have a coach sitting opposite you. I mean, I've had in the class, I get the question, well, can I have the client write their vision statement? I say no, because their best thinking got them to where they are right now.
Right.
So it's important that you ask the questions, let them go inside and come up with their truth, and then you write it for them. And you can embellish a little bit, make it a little bit bigger than what they're telling you that they want. Because when they hear it and they see it in their mind's eye, they're going to create it. It's just a matter of time.
Right. Right. And incidental to the coaching aspect, I believe you also kind of teach them a business model about how to do it and do it well.
Yes, I do. You're right. Thank you for that question. Yes, because after you get the system and you know how to coach, the next thing you do is you need to start your business. So I do go into detail on that. And I start with, are you a corporation? Do you have one? Do you want one? Are you an LLC? Are you a DBA? How do you have your business structured? If you don't have one, okay, I recommend DBA to get started. And then, I talk about payment methods. I talk about computer systems that you need, which is pretty much everything's already there. You can use Google Docs to track your customers. You don't really need a computer system, except for mass emailing. If you're going to send somebody, you want to keep a newsletter or contact with your leads for clients and that kind of thing. You want to have some automated system that you can send one email to everybody and personalize it. Right. And you can get those for free. So it's, there's not a whole lot of expense when you get started as a coach. I know there's tons and tons of people out there saying that you've got to have a funnel and you got to do this and you have to have this big old marketing and you got to get on Facebook and you got to post and it's like, no, you don't need to do any of that. All you need to do is get your elevator pitch, which needs to be very specific, but I have a template for that too. So I get people to, create their elevator pitch. You take that elevator pitch, you either email it. I prefer texting it to everybody that you know that's in your phone. They already know, like, and trust you. When you send that out, you ask them to share it with everybody they know. Now you've got exponentially increased your contacts, right?
Right.
If you're asking them to share that with people. So that's how I recommend people get started is, you've already got a network. It's called pick the low hanging fruit. You don't need to go create a funnel, do any marketing. You don't have to post on Facebook. You don't have to do any of that. Simply let people know what you're doing and you'll get started. And I'm delighted that I do get callbacks from the coaches that do it, and they're so excited for what I've got clients. I go, yeah, I know, it's great, and it costs you nothing except for a little time texting. It's copy paste, text. It's not really difficult to get going.
Right.
Yeah.
Preparatory to this discussion, I did a little perusing of the internet myself about coaches, and you're right. There's a lot of them out there.
Yes.
And to be honest, it's kind of like there's so many, it's very hard for an individual like me to say, okay, well, I have this concern or that issue, and how do I target myself? And so I found that it was a little hard to figure out, for instance, whose certification do they have to have? What's best for me in
Right.
that sense? Who's got the specialties that I'm looking to have addressed? And those sorts of things. Do you have any insight on that, perhaps?
I do. I think that if you are looking for an executive coach, meaning a coach that would go into a Fortune 100 company and coach the C-level executives, you do, I believe, want somebody who's ICF certified. They have 120 hours worth of training. But in addition to that, they might also have an MBA, and they might also have some psychology in their background. And in that case, now they're going to be able to not only coach, but maybe consult a little bit with that.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's important at that level. However, like I said, there's people coaching in over 52 coaching niches. So if I was looking for somebody who wanted to coach me on relationships, I'd certainly want that person to have a healthy relationship themselves before I had them coach me,
Yeah.
So checking their background, of what it is that you are headed toward, I think would be important. And really, coaching is about asking the questions. So do I have to have the perfect life in order to coach you? Absolutely not, because
Right.
it's not about you, it's about the client. So, and if you have the questions to ask, then it's not a mystery. It's not, it's not a big theoretical problem. It's no, here's the questions. Give me the answers. Okay, I'm going to create this vision statement for you. And now I'm going to hold you accountable to moving forward and doing what you said you wanted to do. I'll tell you, I got to share this one story. I had this client. Okay. I took her through the new client interview. We spent an hour. She told me everything she wanted to do. I wrote it up. A week later, I delivered her vision statement, and she listened to it for a week. And a week later, we met again. And this is where I'm going to say, hey, what is it that you want to get started on? Where would you like to go? And she goes, I don't want to do any of it. And I was rather shocked because she spent an hour telling me that's what she wanted to do. So it's like, whoa, okay, deep breath. All right, then. So what would you like to do? And anyway, the great news about that was she had like a 2-year plan that she was told me that she wanted to do.
Right.
And when she listened to it for 1 week, she went, you know what? That's not what I want to do. And instead, she said, I want to take your coaching class and become a life coach. And I went, great. And I enrolled her on the spot. But the thing was that I'm thinking that she had somebody else telling her, here's what you want to do. You want to go to school. You want to
Oh,
get your education. She wanted to work with people, and so they were telling her you could become I think it was a university advisor,
mhm.
and so she was going to go through all that for a couple of years, become a university advisor. And in the end, she listened to it and went, not doing it. So it's an interesting field to be in, coaching. You can help people discover what it is that they think they want to do, and then in the end, what it is that they really want to do.
Right, right.
And then just keep encouraging them to go along the way. But I hope
Yeah.
I answered your question about how would you go about hiring a coach. I would think that you'd want to resonate with that person that you're talking to. If
Right.
you're talking to them and it feels like you got some kind of synergy going on, and they have a background that is I'd say better than yours, meaning if they have an amazing relationship and you're looking for a relationship coach, that seems like if you have that synergy with them, then I think that would be a good choice.
Yeah, that sounds like it makes a lot of sense. Right.
Yeah.
So in your view, knowing what you know about the coaching business and everything, is there some contribution other than your own to coaching solutions that you most admire that's out there?
That's a great question. Dr. John Reed, who has his MBA and he also has the psychology background, wrote a book called Pinpointing Excellence: Succeed with Great Executive Coaching and Steer Clear of the Rest. So in that book, he's talking about what I mentioned, the IC accreditation, the psychology background. He's got his MBA, so he's already got all the things on board, right? So he would make a great executive coach. And I think his book is a great contribution to the coaching industry because it does define, oh my gosh, in that book, he has all the questions that you would want to ask of a executive coach before you hired them, So he's like, here's how you vet for an executive coach. This is what they should have in their background, and these are the questions you need to ask them before you move forward with them. So I think he's made a big contribution in that aspect for executive coaching. I think that's a big contribution. In terms of, what have other people done? I don't know so much.
Well, we're getting toward the end of our time here, and I wanted to give you a chance to offer any closing comments for the audience, any perspective that you want to leave them with.
All right. Great question. I'd say the most important thing that you can do as an individual is take time for yourself and ask yourself that question. What is it that I'm meant to create and gift back to the world? And maybe it's being a great mom and raising beautiful children. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's being an artist and delivering a beautiful piece of art. Maybe it's creating a coaching system and delivering that, But really taking time, that mindfulness, being mindful and taking a time out, meditating is a great way to get that clarity of what it is that you're meant to give back to the world. But certainly, I'd say the best gift that you can give others is to be your best self. And to be your best self is to go inside and find out and discover what your gifts are and what you're meant to share with the world.
Okay. All right. For those individuals out there that are now wanting to be coaches, maybe you could share your contact points so they know how to get hold of you and your company.
I'd love to. So the name of my company is Wainright Global, and the website is lifecoachtrainingonline.com. And it's not recordings. It sounds like it's recordings when you say it's training online. It's over Zoom, but it's live. So lifecoachtrainingonline.com. And if you want to download a free book there, just look under free stuff.
Okay, great. Well, listen, Barbara, it's been great getting your perspectives and listening to your experience here. And thank you so much for joining us on Vision in Action Live today.
My pleasure. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It was wonderful to meet you, Jim.
Great. Thank you. I hope to see you again.
Thank you.
And that's our episode for today. I want to thank our guest today, Ms. Barbara Wainwright, for her participation. I want to remind you that Vision in Action Live podcasts include presentations of important personal development material from Lifelong Fulfillment and interviews with subject matter experts and people already leading self-directed lives. Vision in Action Live podcasts are every week and will be announced in advance. Thank you for tuning in to Vision in Action Live. We hope you found it helpful. Check out your First Fulfillment Plan newsletter for details of this podcast. You can look at the book, Lifelong Fulfillment, collateral materials, and this podcast at lifelongfulfillment.com. In addition, you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Goodreads, Online Dinner Party with Mark Lee, Doing Business with a Servant's Heart, and Conscious Living podcast with Jackie Woodside. I'm Jim Boswell. I'm your host. Comments and questions on the podcast or the book are welcome at lifelongfulfillment.com and Jim at lifelongfulfillment.com. Again, thanks for watching. We look forward to seeing you again on another episode of Vision in Action Live.